Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. It's Brother Raya. I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, by Hashem Mashiach Malak Yahushua. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that go out there and labor on the highways and byways, making their body live in sacrifice. In the rain, the tumults, the demons, the uprises, the uproars, they're out there standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that are not out there as of yet, but they're building themselves up. Reading, praying, fasting, being diligent, taking notes, being steadfast, doing everything they could do to shake the hand and wake up the hopeful elect. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Akwaf in this thing that actually sincerely reverence their husbands, being teachers of good things to the children at home, being quiet, shamefaced, submissive, loving, steadfast, cooking, sewing, cleaning, doing all of the righteous acts of our foremothers on fire for the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Akwaf that are not married as of yet, but they're building themselves up, reading, praying, and fasting, being shamefaced and submissive until the coming of our Lord Yahushua. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty children in this thing, right? Zealous, right? Abstaining from all lust, concupiscence, and peer pressure, standing 10 toes down for the name of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And last but not least, another strong shalom to the whole entire nation, on fire, reading, praying, and fasting. That is going to be an in-depth breakdown, or are the 2/3 going to be in the kingdom of heaven? Now, a lot of brothers, they may say yes. A lot of brothers say no. It's a controversial topic in the nation. You know, a lot of people don't understand regeneration. A lot of people don't know what's going on in the kingdom. A lot of brothers just may not have that understanding through the Spirit. And we're going to dive in through the Spirit of the Most High to elaborate and edify and break down through the Spirit of the Most High God. Right, we're going to start. Right, I'm going to get the mighty book of Zechariah, the 13th chapter. Let's go to the mighty book of Zechariah, chapter 13, and I'm going to start at 7. Right, because you want to know the history, you want to know the context, but you also want to know the spirit and prophecy. You know, a lot of scholars, they can't go into prophecy. You know, don't get jammed up with scholars, right, teaching you just context all day and not really understanding the spirit of the Most High. The Spirit is going to break down, give you utterance, and have you to be able to understand all things. Right? This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 13, and verse number 7. Awake, O sword. So the Lord said, awake, O sword. This is a prophecy in the time of Zechariah. Right? Let's get this prophecy. Let's go to the book of Psalms. What is the sword? What is Zechariah talking about in the spirit? This is the book of Psalms, chapter 17. In verse number 13, it says, arise, O Yahweh, disappoint him, cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. So you want to know what the sword is? The sword is the so-called white man. Wasn't that his blessing that he shall live by the sword? Don't we read about that in the book of Genesis, the 27th chapter, that he would live by the sword? So if anybody's personified, classified, going into a sword in the scriptures, it should be fitting that is the so-called white man. Let's get that in the book of Genesis. Let's go to Genesis chapter 27. It's the mighty book of Genesis, right? Chapter 27. And I'm going to start at verse, this whole thing is fire, right? But I'm going to start at verse 40. It says, and by thy sword thou shalt live. So what was his blessing? The sword. So when it says, awake, O sword, that's talking about the so-called white man. It says, and shall serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. So going back to Zechariah, the 13th chapter, it says, awake, meaning arise up, O sword, against my shepherd. Who's known as the good shepherd? What is this talking about? It's talking about our king, Hamashiach Wamalak Yahushua. He's the shepherd. He's the one that got smitten. Let's go to the mighty book of John, the 10th chapter. Yahushua is the shepherd, and we are the sheep. You can read about that in Psalms, the 23rd chapter. It's the book of John, chapter 10, right? And I'm going to start at 11. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. So the Lord said that he's the shepherd. He's the true shepherd. You have many shepherds when you read Ezekiel, the 34th chapter. You may have pastors, right? Leaders, prophets, elders, nobles, eldermen. These are your shepherds too, but you have one true shepherd. It says, awake, O sword, against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, meaning my acquaintance, my follower, my disciple. Meaning, awake up, O empire, O sword, O nation, right? Against what? Against my shepherd, and against the man that is my fellow, saith the Lord of hosts. And smite the shepherd, and the sheep shall be scattered. Who are the sheep? We are the sheep. When the Lord got put to death, and all hell broke loose, leading up to the siege during the Roman Empire, right? In 70 AD, all hell broke loose, and the sheep scattered, like you read about the prophecy in Luke, right, chapter 21, and Matthew chapter 24. And I will turn my hand upon the little ones. We're classified as the little ones. We're classified as the children, the meek, the lowly, right? Let's get that real fast. Let's break that down. Let's go to the mighty book, right, of, let me see what I want. Let's go to Luke. It's Luke chapter 19. Let's get this prophecy. This Luke chapter 19, right? And I'm going to start at verse number 41. It's the book of Luke chapter 19, verse number 41. And when he was come near, behold the city, and wept over it. So when the Lord saw the city of Jerusalem, he wept over it. Meaning he understood that the days were coming where the Roman Empire would come in and siege and destroy the temple, right? The Western Wall, the Second Temple, whatever you want to classify it as, right? He knew that they were going to come in and ransack, kill the children, slay the women, destroy the men, lead away captive our fathers. He knew this thing because he knew all things. It's saying, if thou hast known, even thou at the least in this day, the things which belong unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. When it had to come to pass. That's why it was hid, because it was already talked about before it to come to pass. It had to be revelated through the Spirit. It says, for the day shall come upon thee that thine enemy shall cast a trench about thee. A trench is talking about a barricade, being surrounded. To trench up a nation or barricade it or surround it is an old ancient way to go to war, because they would starve out your towns and your cities. That's why Hezekiah did what he did, digging up the water holes and things like that. So why when you read the book of Judith, right, and the book of Kings, right, they were stopping all valleys and certain things and high hills, because they knew to cut off a nation's water supply, stop the hills, stop the interest coming in and out, is a sure way to stop them from prospering. It says about thee and capacity round, and keep the end on every side, meaning not able to escape. Because if you were trying to kill somebody, right, think of somebody surrounded your house, SWAT. Well, brother, you can't call for help. You can't run away because they barricaded and they surrounded it. And shall lay thee even with the ground, and thy children within thee, and they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another. What is that talking about, one stone upon another? Because the Lord already prophesied it to the disciples that this very thing would happen about the stones in the book of Mark, the 13th chapter. It's the book of Mark, chapter 13 and verse number 1. And as he went out of the temple, one of his disciples said unto him, Master, what manner of stones and what buildings are here? So he was looking at this temple, and he's seen all of the Pacific stones and all of the various places of the temple. And Yahushua answering said unto him, seest thou these great buildings? There shall not be left one stone upon another. So he already prophesied it to his disciples and to the men what was going to prophesy and happen during the siege in 70 AD, which is literally foreshadowing, you understand, the third abomination of desolation, us being the stones and destroying us as a nation of people. That shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives over against the temple, Peter and James and John and Andrew asked him privately, tell us, what shall these things be? And what shall be the sign when all these things should be fulfilled? So these men wanted to know the prophecies. They wanted to know the understanding. They wanted to know when the siege was going to happen and the end days. right? Going back to the book of Luke, chapter 19, right? And verse number 44, right? I'm going to start at 45. Matter of fact, I'm going to rush right there. I'm going to go back to the book of Zechariah, right? It says, smite the shepherd, and their sheep shall be scattered, and I will turn my hand upon the little ones. Let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 21. Let's understand what this is going into. It's the book of Luke, chapter 21, and verse number 20. It says, and when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies. Compassed with armies is the Roman Empire. It was prophesied all the way in the book of Daniel, the 9th chapter. Daniel foresee and talked about the siege. Yahweh prophesied it and talked about the siege. All of these things were already written. Zechariah talked about the siege. But all of these three have one thing in common. Yahweh prophesied it about the end of the world. In Daniel, the 9th chapter, he's prophesying too in the spirit about the end of the world, the weeks being fulfilled. You got Zechariah. He's a prophet. He's foretelling future events about the end of the world. The Lord said he would shew thee the secrets of wisdom, that they are double to that which is. You know how to hide something? The best way to hide it is in plain sight, right before your eyes. Right before your eyes, when you read the scriptures, things are double to that which is. That's why these scientists and these doctors and all these theologians and all of these Christian apologists, they read the scriptures, but they don't understand it. While you are able to dive in and the Lord opens up your mind, right? This is the book of Daniel, chapter 9, and I'm going to start, right, at verse number 26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the prince. You have the people of the prince, because the prince is the spiritual demon, Satan, on one fold, but on another fold, the people of the prince is who? The Roman Empire. Because they're the people that come out of the spiritual demon Satan. We're coming out of the Most High, our works, our lineage, our people, our mind, our spirit, while there's a spirit of Satan upon the earth and an evil seed. So they're the people of the prince, right? And it's already prophesied. Well, let me get that real fast. In the book of John. All right, just to show you that it is talking about the spiritual demon Satan. This is the book of John, chapter 16, and verse number 11. Salakia, number 11. And it reads, of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged. Check that out. So you have the prince of this world. You have the king, the Most High God, but then you have the prince, principalities, regions, spirits, demons. You have Satan, which is over a nation, and the Most High, which is over another. So the Lord said, the people of the prince, let me read that again, shall come, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. A flood is talking about destruction, nations, powers, authorities, going left to right, destruction and wickedness in high places. Let me get this quick precept in the book of Psalms, chapter 93. So it's parabolic to nations, because waves are unpredictable, waves are strong, you can't tame them, just like an army. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 93 and verse 3. The floods have lifted up, O Yahweh. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lifted up their waves. So when a flood lifts up, what you going to do, man? You're going to fight against a flood, or are you going to be destroyed, drowned in a whirlpool, raining, destruction? That's how these armies and these nations, they come about with war, missiles, like a flood, because there's nothing that you can do. That's why it was so spiritual that Noah got saved through the hand in a flood, because it's impossible to overcome. Right? Let's go to the mighty book of Daniel. It says the end of war, desolations are determined, because that's the abomination of desolation. Right? It says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice of oblation to cease. For the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even unto the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Right? And we broke that down. It's a cold cut, right? The 3 abominations of desolation. Right? You may want to go into that through the spirit. Let's go back to the book of Luke, chapter 21, verse number 21. Let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. So when you break it down as prophecy in Zechariah, check this out. Now, a lot of people go to Zechariah 7, right, 13 and 7, and they say, well, this prophecy already came to pass. This is not talking about the 2/3. It's not going into the kingdom. It's not going to this. It's not going into that. Well, why is the Lord in this context saying in verse 8, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the 3rd part shall be left therein. And I will bring the 3rd part through the fire and will refine them as silver is refined. Now, keeping this just in context, if you want to break it down like a scholar without the spirit, where's the northern kingdom? Wasn't the northern kingdom, right, taken captive? Aren't there certain parts of the northern kingdom in Samaria? Where's the siege predominantly taking place at? What's going on in a contextual level during this time? What's going on with the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom? Are there certain men that are all the way in Spain? Are there certain men that's in Corinth, that's in Crete? Are they spread abroad? What's going on with the nation right now? Because if the Lord is saying he's going to bring a 3rd part through the fire and will refine them as silver is refined, and I will try them as gold is tried, they shall call on my name and I will hear them. I will say, this is my people, and they shall say, the Lord is my God. So with this precept in context, all the Israelite foreigners, them that are driven away in diverse lands, this wasn't pertaining to them because they wasn't left in the land. They wasn't in the land to begin with. If you want to break this down to a T, just being in the context, you're going to cut yourself because this can't be talking about it just coming to pass on a carnal level and it's being all the way done and wiped away. The Lord said in the book of Luke, chapter 21, in verse number 21, then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains. So this is a specific prophecy fulfilling coming to pass during the time, right, of the New Testament, but also deeper in the spirit. And it further explains when you go to Matthew, the 24th chapter. It says, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. And it's talking about in Daniel. That's what it's talking about, that may be fulfilled, and in Zechariah. Woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days, for there shall be great distress in the land, and wrath upon his people. Because the Romans are going to come in with the siege and dash babies' heads against the stones, the same way we have to do them. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Because there's actually a time to be fulfilled of the treading down of the Gentiles when you read the book of Revelations, the 11th chapter. It says, we were clothed in sackcloth for 1,260 days. It says, and there shall be signs in the sun, in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth, the stress of nations with perplexity, and sea and the waves roaring. So all of this is going on, but then right in the midst of all hell breaking loose during the Roman siege, it says, and men's hearts failing them for fear and looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. One verse changes in the same context, seemingly in the same, spirit, in the same prophecy, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud. Now, is the Son of Man going to come, or did he come during the Roman siege? Did the Son of Man crack the sky and come during the Romans? No. So why in the same context is this talking about Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua coming with the clouds of heaven? Because it's twofold. It's a spirit of things that have come into pass and things that are going to come to pass. Let me read that again. And then should they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power, right, and great glory. Let's go into the history real fast. You got the Roman siege. Now, before we go into this, you had the Roman siege, right? They sieged us up for about 5 months. It was war going on, I believe, a couple of days before the Passover. So they knew what they were doing. They strategically struck us down a couple of days or a day or maybe 2 days before the Passover. We're going to read it. So they already know we were mentally preparing ourselves, spiritually getting ourselves ready. We were getting all the leaven out the house. We was in the spirit of the Most High. And what did the Romans do? They strategically knew what time it was. They knew we wasn't prepared for war. They trenched us around. And you know what they did? They destroyed us. During the time when we were giving ourselves to one of the most holiest days that the Most High has ordained. This is the book, Salakia. This is the Siege of Jerusalem, right on Wikipedia. It says the Siege of Jerusalem, 70 AD, was right the Cyphers event of the first Jewish-Roman war, which was around 66 to 73, what they would say. And the Roman army led by Emperor Titus besieged Jerusalem in the center of Jewish rebellion, resistance, and the Roman province of Judea. So during the Roman province of Judea, which is the end of Jerusalem, so like which is the end of Israel, you have Galilee, Samaria, and at the bottom, Judea. So where's the rest of the tribes? Where's the rest of this prophecy fitting in with a contextual level of the Lord just dealing and bringing through the fire and them just being his people? Well, what's going on? Because if you read this, doesn't the Lord say he's going to draft in the rest of them when you read the book of Romans, the 11th chapter? So this has to be deeper than just touching on the Jews. It says this, April 70 CD, right? 3 days before the Passover, the Roman army started besieging Jerusalem. The city had been taken over by several rebel factions following a period of massive unrest and a collapse of a short-lived provisional government within 3 weeks. The Roman army broke the first 2 walls of the city, right? So all hell was breaking loose around the western wall. The western wall is where we prayed at. So when you go to the temple, you have Herod's temple where they added on top of the temple that was already in building. Then you had the western wall. The western wall was during a lot of prayers. We had that big wall that where they would come and they would, pray to the Most High. You had the outer court, the inner court, right? You had the treasuries. You had the women's court. You had all of these different things during the temple. They came and they broke down the first 2 walls, right? Coming towards the city. But a stubborn rebellious standoffs prevent them, right, from penetrating the thickets in the 3rd wall. According to Josephus, right, Salakia, let me see. I wanted to get something else through the spirit. Let's get this timeline. Right? And these are the different breaches like they're going to through the spirit. I ain't necessarily want to touch on all of them. But from 63, you had the Roman Republic, right? The Pompey the Great besieged and takes the city. Pompey enters into the temple, but leaves treasures. Hyrcanus II, right? The high priest. You have 57 to 55 BCE going all the way down, right, to 6 to the Herodian government. So from the time, when you're going into this, Pompey the Great and all of these different things, leaving off from the Maccabean dynasty, right, and Herodian dynasty, leading up, right, from 331 to 146, from 146 around 4 BC, when Herod came, you understand, and his government got established, right, stealing it, right, from our people, right, by marrying off one of the daughters of Hyrcanus and all of them through the lineage and stealing the kingdom, right? The kingdom was switched and wickedness started to prosper, right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of Zechariah. Let's go back to that. I want to touch on that. Now in verse 9, it says, and I will bring the 3rd part through the fire. So the Lord said, after everything is fulfilled, I'm bringing that 3rd part through the fire. What does it mean that the 3rd part is going through the fire on a contextual level? Meaning the Lord is saying that they're going to go into captivity into all nations. That's the 3rd part going through the fire. They're going to be in the fire during that time to the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. That's the fire on a contextual level. On a spiritual level, it says, and I will bring a 3rd part through the fire. The Lord's always dealing with 3, 7, 10, 12, 1,000, 100. These are spiritual numbers. A 3rd part is a complete part through the fire, which is tribulation, and I will refine them as silver is refined. And I will try them as gold is tried, and they shall call on my name, and I will hear them. And I will say, this is my people, and they shall say, the Lord is my God. Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of Job. Let's go to Job chapter 23. So the elect has to get tried through the fire. The 1/3 has to get tried through the fire. The Lord is with trying and proving. He's classified and known as a potter, a creator. Right? Didn't all of the candlesticks and all of the carnal instruments, according to the law, they had to be beaten and proven? Wasn't Yahweh Shah tried through the fire? Everybody that the Lord loves has to go through the fire. It's inevitable. Let's go to the book of Job, chapter 23, in verse number 10. But he knoweth the way that I take. When he have tried me, I shall come forth as gold. So Job is the elect. And Job knows that he has to get tried through the fire. And in getting tried through the fire, he's going to be brought through like gold is brought through. Undefiled, perfect, taking away all of those infirmities, all of that mischief, all of that doubt, unbelief, not having faith. The Lord is going to cleanse all of that and bring you through the fire and perfect you through the spirit. Let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 43 and verse number 2. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee, and through the rivers, they shall not overflow thee. When thou walkest through the fire, thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. So why is all of these, contexts of being tried through the fire being proven all throughout the prophets, all throughout the New Testament? If this one precept and this one context was just on a contextual level, it's not a prophecy, because the Most High is dealing with double that which is. So right now we're being tried through the fire. The Lord said we have to be baptized by water and by fire. The baptism of fire is getting tried through the spirit, right? Whether that's the day of temptation, the day of adversity, the day of plagues, the day of vengeance, right? The day where you may be beheaded, the day where they cast up all your accounts, you're in a courtroom, you don't know what to do, you stand tall for the name of the Lord. This getting tried through the fire. Thou shalt not be burned, neither shall the flame kindle upon thee. So the Lord said the flame is going to devour you and overtake you through the fire. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Right? I want to get 2nd Esdras. Right? Let me pull this up. Let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras. It's the book of 2nd Esdras. Right? Chapter 7. The book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 7. And I'm going to start. Right? This whole thing is fire. I'm going to start at the mighty book of 2nd Esdras. I'm going to start at 6. It says, there is also another thing. A city is builded and set upon a broad field, and it is full of all good things. And the entrance thereof is narrow, and is set in a dangerous place to fall, like as if there were a fire on the right hand and on the left deep water. So, it's a heavy place to fall. You could get drowned, overtaken, beat, bloated, and destroyed. You get burned, scorched, and devoured through the fire. And you're on this narrow path, which is that straight path to get to the kingdom, where only one man could fit at a time. Meaning the Most High has to call you. Can't stampede to the Lord, and it's just that easy. He has to call you and withhold everybody else. You're the one that's chosen to be able to enter in at a time. It says, and one only path between them both, even between the fire and the water, so small that there could but one man go there at once. And you have to be called. You have to be chosen. You have to be drawn by the Heavenly Father. You have to be pulled. Let's go to the book, right? Isaiah chapter 48. Let me get this quick precept. Isaiah chapter 48. And I'm going to start at verse 10. Behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. Hold on. But not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction. So you have one tried with silver, and one not tried with silver. Meaning the Lord has to perfect you, not through silver, but through gold, which is a deeper and more precious metal. For my own sake, even for my own sake, I will do it. For how should my name be polluted? What's it mean that the Lord's name will be polluted? Because of all the promises that he promised you: everlasting life, immortality, the kingdom, the blessings, all of the things that the Heavenly Father has bestowed upon you, that he's going to give you in the kingdom, to rule over your enemies, to dash them their heads against the stones, man, and break these Edomites asunder. He cannot pollute his name. So he has to try you through the fire and perfect you, that he may give you all the things he promised you. And I will not give my glory unto another. So nobody could pull the Most High up, call the Most High a liar, or him give his glory to another by polluting his name, by all of the promises and things that he said he was going to give to you. After you're tried through the fire and made perfected through the fire. Right? And let me get this quick precept. Let's go to Sirach. Let's get the classic. Right? Let's go to Sirach, the classic. Let me get one more in that. And I want to dive into the 2/3. Are they going in the kingdom? Are they not going in the kingdom? How is this broken down? How do I understand the 2/3 coming back? Are they coming back? It's a lot of confusion, or maybe a misunderstanding with a lot of things. And we're going to dive into it through the Spirit. It's the book of Sirach 2 and 5. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. So the Most High has to try you through the fire. And that's not just talking about the southern kingdom. The Lord's going to try the northern kingdom too. They're not just going to be the ones that just don't get tried. So that third part on a spiritual level is a complete part. Did not the Lord say he was going to destroy a third part of Babylon in the book of Revelation? Let me get this quick precept. So 3 is completion. Trying the third part, destroying the third part. 80, when you read the book of Ezekiel, the third, the 5th chapter, the Lord tells you that he's going to try a third part and bring them through the fire during the siege, or the Babylonian siege, and give them over to 3 ways. Right, let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 16. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 16 and verse 19. And the great city was divided into 3 parts. Is that physical? Is Babylon physically going to get destroyed in 3 major chunks, in 3 major sections with 3 major divides? No, it's not what that's talking about. It means utter destruction to Babylon and all inhabitants thereof. And the cities of the nations fell, and great Babylon came in remembrance before God, to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. Right? Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8. So the same spirit that the Lord has with the generations come back on the earth, if you have ears to hear. The same spirit of vengeance, the same spirit of salvation, the same spirit of love, the same spirit of chastisement. The Lord goes in cycles. Right? It's times when you read the scriptures where you have a captivity. And then there's times you read the scriptures where we're out of the captivity, man, and we're rejoicing. Times we go to war and we get taken down. It's times we prevail in war. It's times where the Lord proves us as a generation. Then there's times of us, after being proved, that we can read about the scriptures, inheriting the things that the Lord has promised us and told us after we're being proved. The same way in this generation, we're getting proved. This is the same thing all over again. When you read about the wilderness, when you go into the accounts of our fathers, we read the account of Solomon's kingdom. All of this is the same thing over and over and over in the spirit, because the Lord deals with the same spirit. The Lord isn't, I would say, you don't know what's going on. Kind of read Deuteronomy. Right? You going to Esther. Right? You go to the book of Revelation. You're just getting confused. No, the same spirit is on the earth, man. And the Lord said, I change not. Right? This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 8. Right? In verse, this whole thing is fire. I'm going to start at verse 2. And thou shalt remember all the way which the Lord thy God led thee these 40 years in the wilderness, to humble thee and to prove thee. So why do we go in the wilderness? To get proved. The Lord proved us and said as a prophecy in Zechariah, the Lord proved us in the time of the Gentiles being fulfilled in the siege of Rome during the New Testament in 70 AD. The Lord has proven us right now in this wilderness, whether we're going to follow him. The Lord has proved us right in the old wilderness, in the ancient world. It's the same spirit of being proven. What happens each and every time after we get proven? It says to know what was in thy heart, whether thou wouldest keep his commandments or no. And he humbled thee and suffered thee to hunger and fed thee with manna. And right now in this land, we're hungry. And the Lord has given us the bread of life. But we may loathe the bread of life. We may loathe the manna, the true manna. We may want philosophies and doctrines to be an athlete and a singer and fulfill our dreams. We may want to eat strange things to defile our temple. It says, which thou knewest not, neither didst thy fathers know, that we might make thee to know that man doeth not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Lord doeth man live. So the Lord proved us in this, and he chastened us when we were in the wilderness, all to bring forth fruit to prove us into the promised land. Right, let me get this real fast. Right, let's go to the mighty book of Matthew. That's why Yahweh had to go through the wilderness. It wasn't a great mystery why Satan driven him in the spirit into the wilderness, out of all places, because this is the wilderness. In the same way Yahweh overcame all things for the children of Israel, he had to overcome the wilderness, because we didn't overcome the wilderness. Every point where we failed, every point of the law that was carnal, that he had to fulfill spiritually, everything that lacked in the law, he fulfilled. Everything about Hamashiach or Malak Yahushua is for our well-being and our protection, and there's a map and a blueprint to follow into salvation. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 4, right? And verse number 1. And it reads, when Yahushua was led up, right, of the spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And we were tempted in the wilderness of the devil. Now, why were we tempted in the wilderness? So we could go off, bring forth strange fruit, murmur against the Lord, not bring forth righteousness. It says, and when he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights, he was afterward a hunger. And when the tempter came to tempt him, he said, if thou be the Son of God, command these stones to be made bread. And he knew that Yahushua could have only probably failed through his carnal understanding by the one thing that was held over him, being made flesh, being made a mortal man, because he was God over all. His preeminence and his glory preceded all the men that were on earth. He had to liken himself in a carnal body to be subject under Yahweh and face chastisement to prove and be fulfilling what the children of Israel lacked as salvation. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. So when the Lord was tried, when the Lord was proved, what happened? The Lord prevailed. The Lord overcame. So all of these things are blueprints and maps out through the spirit, right, as the days we living in now. Now let me get this quick precept in the book of Romans. Right, this is the book of Romans, chapter 11. Now with a kingdom and with being tried, you always have the Israelites that are destroyed. You always have the kingdom that's destroyed and brought down. But you also have that remnant in every captivity, the remnant in every generation, the remnant in every chapter, the remnant of the righteous and the elect that are always preserved by the Lord. And that's spiritual. This is the book of Romans, chapter 11, right? And I'm going to start at verse, this whole thing is fire. I'm going to start at 2. God hath not cast away his people, which he foreknew. What ye not, what the scripture saith of Elijah? How he maketh intercessions to God against Israel, saying, Lord, they have killed thy prophets. Though Elijah thought he was the only one left, man. He's looking at everybody getting killed, destroyed, beat down, and dig down on altars. And I am left alone, and they seek my life. You can read about this in 1 Kings, the 18th chapter. It says, but what saith the answer of God to him? I have reserved to myself 7,000 men. Is this physical? Were there physically 7,000 men that were upon the earth? No. There were an innumerable amount of men selected just for salvation. You have men that are called from the foundation of the earth. You may have literally been called from the foundation of the earth. You could fall 15 times. You can go off, right, and repent from it. The Lord will have mercy on you. Throughout all your generations, all your lots, the Lord has been preserving your spirit with angels every single generation. Every single generation you bear witness. Every single generation you read it. Every single generation you fast. Every single generation you reading and praying and on fire. And every single generation you crying out to the Lord. And to the last lot where you stand in your glory. Because the Lord has predestinated you for salvation in the kingdom of heaven. But then you have certain people, they're predestined to be killers, predestined to be robbers, predestined to be drug addicts, predestined to be nigger women and nigger men and whores and whoremongers and all type of wizards and all type of warlocks and witches. You have people that are reserved for the spirits of the spiritual demon Satan and his legions. It says, who have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. Those are the same spirits in Revelation, the 13th chapter, where the Lord said their name are written in the book of life, but they have not worshiped the beast. Let me get that real fast. These are the same spirits, the same remnant of spirits, because that's the elect. The elect isn't always just talking about the 144,000. You have many parts of the elect. Understanding what the elect is and a breakdown of the elect is going to have you to understand that there's more than just 144,000. You have the elect with inside of the elect, right? Let me get this quick precept. Let me get a couple quick precepts just to prove that. Let's go to 2 John chapter 2 and verse 1. The elder unto the elect lady and her children. So the elect lady has children. Check that out. That's spiritual. Now, the children of the elect lady and a lady are Israel, but you have the elect lady's children. So there's a difference, but yet, it's the same through the spirit. You also have, when you read the book of Zechariah, chapter 46, the Lord called the whole nation of Israel the elect. Let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 46, and verse number 1. Right, Joshua, the son of Nun, was valiant in wars and was the successor of Moses in prophecies, who according to his name was made great for the saving of the elect of God. Now, did Joshua only save the elect, or when he went to war, he saved the whole nation? But in this context, the elect is called what? The whole nation of Israel at that time. And taking vengeance of the enemies that rose up against them, that he might set Israel in their inheritance. So the Lord called the elect not just the cream of the crop, the 144,000 men that are warriors, but also the whole nation. Because the whole nation on a deeper level are the elect. You have men, women, and children that are elected and founded from the foundation of the world, but you have the elect inside of the elect. Just like you have different kingdoms, but then you have rulerships inside of that kingdom. Let's go to the mighty book of Romans, right? Chapter 11 and verse 5. So then at this present time, so there is a remnant according to the election of grace. Meaning that every single time the Lord does away with a nation, a part, a captivity, a destruction, he always leaves a remnant. So in this captivity, in this destruction, the Lord's going to leave away a remnant. Now in this remnant, what always happens in a remnant? What happened in the remnant of the wilderness? Did they just cease and just live forever? What happened and then they never had children again? What happened in the time what Paul is talking about now? During the time where Elijah was on the earth. What happened to that remnant? And did men come after that were righteous? What's going to happen in this remnant? The same things in the scriptures, they repeat themselves over and over and over. Stop trying to think that it's going to form out some type of way in the kingdom to where it's only going to be 144,000 men, maybe 100 million Israelites, if that's your understanding, whatever that number may be. And they just going to live forever. And nobody else is going to cease to exist. Because the last time I checked, we're going to have heathens in the kingdom. And what are heathens going to do in the kingdom? They're going to repopulate. They're going to have children. Now, if we have children, which the scriptures say we are, there's going to have to be a new spirit on the earth if regeneration isn't applicable with the scriptures. The Lord is not going to do away with any spirit that he created other than Esau. And we're going to dive into that. I wanted to go into the history on a contextual level. I want to go into the remnant. I want to go into Israel will always live. And I want to go into how the Lord maps out the spirit, right, of the ancient world to the remnant, to the things that are going on today. It says, let me read that real fast. It says, and if by grace, then it is no more of works. Otherwise, grace is no more grace. But if it be of works, then it is no more grace. Otherwise, work is no more work. Meaning the Lord is calling you through his mercy, right? It's not of your works, because you could fall short. You could go off and repent, but the Lord still chose you. So it's not of your works that's going to save you. It's by the grace and through the predestination. What then? Israel have not obtained which he seeketh for, but the election have obtained it, and the rest were blinded. So you have a prophecy in Isaiah of men being blinded. And that literally came to pass. When you read Isaiah, the 6th chapter and verse 9, Isaiah, the 29th chapter and verse 9 all the way down, and 13 all the way down, you have a remnant and a prophecy of men being blinded. Now, in this context, right, this is deep when you go into it. It's really talking about the Jews not being able to understand the northern kingdom being drafted in and being blinded to the spirit of Hamashiach Wamalak Yahushai through the hand of Paul. But on another level, through the spirit, you have a lot of men that are blinded that are going to see in the last end. You may be blinded now, but the Lord isn't going to blind you and kill you and destroy you. Get rid of your spirit off the face of the earth and save the heathens. There will be preposterous madness for somebody to think that the Lord is going to kill his people and save the heathen, because that's essentially what you're saying. Because in order to be saved, you're not going to be destroyed. I don't mean saved like the heathens are going to be eating grapes in the kingdom, but essentially, you're saying that the Lord is going to kill his own people, wipe their spirit to utter off the face of the earth in existence, but preserve the spirit of the heathen forever to serve Israel. And that's the judgment when they have raped, murdered, killed, robbed, molested babies, destroyed houses, ransacked damn crop shares, put up all type of idols, throw witchcraft on you while you sleep, pollute our foods, destroy our educational systems. And you think their judgment is going to be that sweet and we're going to be destroyed forever? That doesn't make any sense. Let me read this real fast. According as it is written, God hath given them the spirit of slumber, eyes that they should not see, and ears that they should not hear unto this day. What is this talking about? All that are not the elect. But what happens in the latter end? Let's go to the prophecy that it's talking about. Let's go to Isaiah, right? Chapter 6 and verse number 9. And then I'm going to touch on 29 in the latter end of it. And he said, go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not. And see indeed, but perceive not. Make their heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they should see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, right? And be slacking and convert to be healed. So the Lord don't want to heal everybody. Everybody's not going to be healed, right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 29. It's Isaiah chapter 29, and I'm going to start at verse, this whole thing is fire. I'm going to start at 13. Wherefore the Lord said, for as much as this people draw near me with their mouth, and with their lips doeth honor me, but they've removed their hearts far from me, and their fear toward me is taught by the precepts of men. Meaning these men aren't going to understand the deepness of the Lord. And in verse 18, and in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book. So what is that talking about? The latter end. It says, is it not yet a little while, and Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field? Field shall be esteemed as a forest. So Lebanon is parabolic for Israel. And in the latter end, the Lord is going to build up the nation. He's going to give men, women, and children and pass them through the bond of the covenant, the elect, and the elect's children will be born in the kingdom righteous. That seed is not going to cease to exist off the face of the earth. It says, and in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. So you think in the last end, the Lord isn't going to open up their minds to the law? He isn't going to open up them to be righteous in the kingdom? Now, talking about spiritual powers, preeminence, rulership, the kingdom, the scepter, the glory, the promises, and all things that pertain to an elect is another breakdown, right? Or an elaborate, breaking down, bringing that down through the spirit. But to be born again in the kingdom is going to happen to the 2/3. And I'm going to break down what a kingdom actually is, because a lot of people don't understand what a kingdom is. They think a kingdom is you just flying around and Esau, and then you just think you're going to see Howard Shai sitting in a cloud on a throne, and then Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are going to be walking around, and King David going to be riding a horse, and that the moon is going to change colors, and you think it's some fairy tale land, huh? A kingdom just means rulership, and a kingdom really means nation. So a nation's kingdom will be their rulership at that time. Because the Greeks had a kingdom. The Romans had a kingdom. Israel had a kingdom. And in our kingdom, in every one of the kingdoms that have ever lived on this earth, you had slaves, you had a poor class, you had a middle class, and you had a high class. Even in the kingdom of heaven, stop putting a spirit on the kingdom of heaven like it's going to be fairy tale land. Kingdom just means rulership. Esau is stepping down and Jacob is stepping up. That's all the kingdom is. And all of the promises that the Lord gave us to just make it to where all of the Israelites, all of the souls are going to be gone is added into the word. It's not in the Bible. Because just because Yahweh comes on the earth and just because we're ruling, what does that mean? Half the instinct of all of our nation. Where do you get that? Right, let me read on. It says, and meekness also shall increase in their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. Let me read all the way down. Verse 23. But when he seeth his children and worketh my hands in the midst of him, they shall sanctify my name and sanctify the Holy One of Jacob, and shall fear the God of Israel. They also that erred in spirit shall come to understanding, and they that murmured shall learn doctrine. Now that word murmur is spiritual, because the wicked murmur. The wicked that died in the wilderness murmured. The men that are murmuring right now in this wilderness, they're going to die. But does that mean they're not going to learn the doctrine, the spirit, the understanding? They're not going to be bred all over again? Because the Lord has prophesied at this very thing that Paul is talking about. But yet when you keep reading, the Lord is going to teach them doctrine. So you're telling me in the kingdom, we're going to have to teach these nations how to keep the law, statutes, and commandments, but the Lord won't have mercy on his own people to teach them that erred in the ways? So you got Esau, and then you got Jacob. Jacob smoking weed, he's doing drugs, he's fornicating, and he's being a nigga in the streets. You got Esau, he's rape, robbing, and murdering. But Jacob's going to be destroyed off the face of the earth forever, and Esau is going to be in the kingdom. And we're going to have to teach Esau the laws, grow up his children, feed them, be over them, make them wear fringes, make them keep the Feast of Tabernacles. But our brother Jacob, our lineage is destroyed forever. Moab is going to be in the kingdom. Going to teach Moab how to put the oil on the beard, grow his beard out, put fringes on, but Jacob's going to be destroyed. Right? Let's go into this, man. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 6 and verse 8. It's the book of Ezekiel chapter 6 and verse 8. Yet will I leave a remnant, that he may have some that shall escape the sword among the nations, when ye shall be scattered through the countries. Check that out. And they shall, it's like, and they that escape of you shall be remembered among the nations, whether they shall be carried captives. Because I am broken with their whorish heart. I'm going to read that again slow. We gotta understand what this is saying. And they that escape of you shall remember me among the nations, whether they should be carried captives, because I am broken with their whorish heart. So the Lord is going to save them that have a whorish heart. And he's going to make them that remember all of their things to be able to be built back up again, that have a whorish heart. The whorish heart is going after these other gods, going after these other idols. It says, which depart from me, and with their eyes, which go a whoring after their idols, and they shall loathe themselves for the evil which they have committed in all their abominations. So they're going to loathe themselves on all the abominations and things that they have brought forth. But the Lord always saves a remnant of his people. And through the remnant, you have a population going forward through salvation. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 10 and verse number 20. It's Isaiah chapter 10 and verse number 20, and it reads, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob. What does it mean, remnant and such as are escaped? Because you're going to have that remnant, which is the elect of the elect, and you're going to have other people that escape also of the house of Jacob. Shall no more again stay upon him that smote him, but shall stay upon the Lord, the Holy One, right? So like the Holy One of Israel in truth. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. So we're going to return. For though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. The consumption decree, right, shall overflow with righteousness. So a remnant is going to return. Not everybody's going to return unto the Lord. Everybody is not going to be in a rulership position or have the things that the elect has. Right now, you have Esau's kingdom. Now, let me break down what a kingdom is real fast. Let me go into it. Let's go to the mighty book. Right, let me get this quick precept. Exodus chapter 19. In verse number 6. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. Now the Lord said we're going to be a kingdom of priests. A kingdom is just a nation, a rulership. Let's go into the blue letter. Let's go into the blue letter. Let's go into this word. All right, let's go into that through the spirit. Right, Shalaki, bear with me. It's the book of Exodus, chapter 19 and verse 6. It's what the word kingdom is in the rulership, in the blue letter. Dominion, reign, sovereignty. So all the kingdom really means is we have dominion. That's all it's going into. Yahweh Shai is going to have dominion like he already does, but on earth as ruling, and we're going to have dominion. In our dominion, we're going to live forever. We're not going to die. We're not going to get sick. We're not going to be bruised. We're going to be as the angels. The angels don't get sick. The angels don't die, and the angels don't go off. We're going to be perfect and live forever, whatever, no sorrows. So it's talking about a reign and a dominion. Let's go to the book of 1 Kings, chapter 11 and 11. Let's go to 1 Kings, chapter 11 and 11. It's the book of 1 Kings, chapter 11 and 11. It says, for as much the Lord said unto Solomon, for as much as this is done of thee, and thou hast not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded thee, I will surely rend the kingdom from thee and give it to thy servant. So when the Lord was getting up with Solomon, he said, I will rend the kingdom from thee. So we already had a kingdom, but we left our kingdom. We stepped down from our kingdom and somebody else stepped up. So when we get the kingdom again, these nations are going to step down and we're going to step up. You don't want to put a spirit on a kingdom and make it a fairy tale thing, mixing Christianity with philosophies and doctrines of men. It's really a rulership. So when a kingdom is rendered from you, it's taken from you. But we also had a kingdom. And what was happening in this kingdom? You had working class. Solomon had an Israelite that was one of his servants. He had Shimei. Now, this man got put to death. Now, you're not going to put to death your servants and things like that in the kingdom. You're not going to have serving your own people. But I'm just saying, in a kingdom, you had servants. You're going to always have servants in the kingdom. You're going to have the rich, you're going to have the middle class, and you're going to have the low class. That's in all kingdoms. Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of 1 Kings, chapter 4. Going into Solomon's kingdom. Because Solomon's kingdom is parabolic of Yahweh's kingdom. Because it was peaceful. It was no war. He had preeminence and glory over all of the regions. It's the book of 1 Kings, chapter 4. And I'm going to start at verse 20. Judah and Israel were many as the sand which is by the sea, and were an innumerable people. And Hosea 1 and 10 were like the sand of the sea, in multitude, eating and drinking and making merry, just like we will be in the kingdom, joined together with Judah and Israel. And Solomon reigned over all kingdoms. So during the time of Solomon, he reigned over all the kingdoms, all of the nations. We were the top kingdom of preeminence during this time. It says, from the river unto the land of the Philistines, unto the border of Egypt. And they brought presents and served Solomon all the days of his life. And in the kingdom, these nations are going to serve us and bring us tributes. And their tributes are all of the things of their lands. So while they're sharecropping and they're doing their work and they're going into their vegetation, who do you think is going to eat them? We are. When you set up over 10 cities, you're going to eat of that land. And you're going to have slaves of that land. And you're going to be an officer over that land, a king over that land, right? You're going to be a ruler, and the kingdom and dominance is going to be set up. It says, in Solomon's provision for one day was 30 measures of fine flour and 3 measures of meal. And he had all of the breads you could think of, man. 10 fat oxen, 20 oxen out of the pasture, and 100 sheep, besides harts and roebucks, and followed there and fatted cow. Then his table was fat full of food, man. For he had dominion over all the region on this side, the river, from Telephas unto Elias, over all the kings of this side of the river, and he had peace on all sides round about. So Solomon's kingdom is just like Yahweh's kingdom, but Yahweh is an everlasting kingdom, a perfected kingdom, a more righteous kingdom, more preeminence over the whole earth type of kingdom, and an everlasting kingdom, and his servants are going to be all righteous in it. It says Judah and Israel dwelt safely. What was this during? The time of Solomon. Every man under his vine and under his fig tree. But that sounds spiritual, because that's the same thing of a prophecy that Zechariah said what happened under Yahweh, that every man would dwell under his vine and under his fig tree safely during the reign of Yahweh. Let's go get that. Let's go to Zechariah chapter 3. Right? Let me get there real fast. I'm going to start at 8. It says, hear now, O Joshua high priest, and thou fellows that sit before thee, but they are men wondered at. For behold, I will bring forth my servant the branch, talking about Yahweh. But in a contextual level, it's talking about Jerubbaal. It says, for behold, the stone, which is Yahweh, that I have laid before Joshua, but in context, it's talking about Jerubbaal because he founded the foundation of the building. Upon one stone should be 7 eyes. Behold, the 7 eyes is Yahweh. That's fulfilling what it's talking about in Revelation chapter 5 and verse 6 all the way down. Behold, I will engrave the engravings thereof, saith the Lord of hosts, and I will remove the iniquity of that land in one day, and he will cleanse it. In that day, hold on, saith the Lord of hosts, shall ye call every man his neighbor under the vine and under the fig tree. So in that day when the Lord read all of the evil of all of the land, in one day, every man's going to dwell peacefully under their vine and under their fig. Because even during the time of David, we still had war. Even though we didn't lose war and David didn't get thrust through, we still prevailed. It was still war. It's only peace in Solomon's kingdom. So in Solomon's kingdom, it says that we're going to dwell under a vine and under a fig tree. The same way we're going to do the same thing under Yahushua in his kingdom. So when you read First Kings and go into the kingdom that was established, that was set up, a rulership that we were under, everyone dwelt safely. We ate. We didn't have war. We were rich. We were rulers. Everything was in order. But then you're going to have the latter kingdom. That's going to be the kingdom of heaven. But that's going to further exceed 7 times over the kingdom of Solomon's. Right, let me get this quick precept. Right, let's go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 10. Right, it's the book of Zechariah, chapter 10. Right, and I'm going to go to verse 14. You got to pull it up through the spirit. Right, it's the book of Zechariah, chapter 10 and 14. It says, the Lord have plucked up the roots of proud nations and planted the lowly in their places. Meaning the Lord removed one kingdom and then he planted another kingdom right there. The Lord overthrew countries of the heathen and destroyed them to the foundations of the earth. He took some of them away and destroyed them, and he had made the memorial to cease from the earth. So the Lord will destroy a kingdom and remove a kingdom, and then he'll plant a kingdom. Did not the Lord say the kingdom of heaven that is within you? Meaning our kingdom is already in us. We don't have to wait for fairy tale land, huh? We don't, it's not coming. We are the kingdom. Yahushua is the king. We already have a king. We already have a land. We already have a people. The Lord's already ordained kings and rulers, governors, princes, nobles. All we got to do is find out who we actually are and fulfill our positions in the second wilderness. We already have slaves. We know who they are. Everything's already in position to be fulfilled. Let me get that at Luke. And like Christianity and Negroes, man, of the world, they kill me. Talking about you waiting on a fairy tale man to come out of the sky and save you, and Christianity ain't gonna make. Well, they don't understand the Bible. We already had a kingdom, and we have a kingdom within us already. And every single day, prophecies coming to pass. Yahushua is making his way, man. The Lord said he leaped down off of the throne like a fierce man of war to the land of destruction. Right, this is the book of Luke, right, chapter 17 and verse number 20. And when he was demanded of the Pharisees, when the kingdom of God shall come. So, I mean, the Pharisees are demanding him. You think you know so much. Let me know what's going on. Show me the prophecies. He answered them and said, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation. You don't have to look around for the kingdom of heaven, man. Stop just reading Revelation. Oh, you're going to build up the goat. You're just going to climb this big, long thing with all of these diamonds and all of these beryls and all of these jasper stones, man. It's spiritual. Even though we're going to lay down certain things that are carnal, but stop not letting your imagination run too wild and think that you're only going to have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Noah, Ezekiel, and then just the men in this lot that are going to be in the kingdom forever. It's not so. If that were the case, then the heathens were out. They were outpopulizers, man, and populators. It says the kingdom of God cometh not with observation. Neither shall they say, lo here or lo there. For behold, the kingdom of God is within you. So the Lord told you we possess the kingdom. We are the kingdom. Everything about us is a king. You know, we walk like a king. We move like a king. We have the statues that kings have. We move. We have the statues that priests have. What's stopping you from being a king right now? It's only one thing. Only one thing is stopping you from being a king. One thing, and that's rulership. Because we already have the kingdom. Every government and kingdom has to have statues. You may have the Greeks. They have their laws. The Romans, they have their laws. Right? You may have the Americans. They have their laws. You have the Israelites. They have their laws. It's only one thing that's stopping us from ruling. Let's just take it down Esau. Because our kingdom is already established within us. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 10, in verse 10. I'm going to start at 8 and jump to 10. And Cush begat Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth. Jumping down to 10. And the beginning of his kingdom was Baal. See, had the ancient Babylonian empire doing all of the way from the beginning under Nimrod when they were building up the Tower of Babel. No? But he had a kingdom back then. That was his kingdom on the earth. So every nation and every kingdom and every people, they have a chance to rule. We should have never got off the throne. The Lord said in the book of 1 Kings, the 9th chapter, verse 4. Let me get this real fast. This is where we messed up at, because we should have never got off the throne. And the only thing that had us to get off the throne was what? Sin. If we don't sin, we're never going to get off the throne. So what's going to happen in the kingdom? We're not going to sin in the kingdom. And we're never going to get off that throne. This is the book of 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 4. And if thou wilt walk before me as David thy father walked, in integrity of heart, and in uprightness, and doeth according to all that have commanded thee, and will keep thy statutes, right, and my judgments, then will I establish thy throne of thy kingdom upon Israel forever. And the Lord said, if you walk like David, and you keep these statutes, you keep these judgments, you keep these commandments, I'm going to establish your kingdom forever, man. You're going to forever have a throne, forever have dominion, forever have power, and forever have authority, man. So that's why it's so important passing through that bond of the covenant, because that solidifies our throne and our seat in rulership in the kingdom. It says, as I promised to David thy father, saying, thou shalt not fail thee a man upon the throne, check that out, of Israel, right? And let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of Isaiah, chapter 60. So when the spirits die, I'm going to come back to Isaiah 60. I'm going to get Ezekiel, chapter 18. So when the spirits, well, man gives up ghosts, rather, the spirits go up to the third heaven. Now, in the third heaven, they resort to their chambers. Every spirit and every soul has a chamber that the Heavenly Father has for all spirits. All spirits have their chambers. Let's get that real fast in 2nd Esdras. It's the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 5, and verse number 35. Salaki. Get this quick precept. Right. It's the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 4, right, in verse number 35, and it reads, it says, did not the souls of the righteous ask questions of these things in their chambers, saying, how long shall I hope on this fashion? When cometh the fruit of the floor of our reward? So all of the spirits of the righteous are asking questions in their chambers. So you have chambers that the Lord has to measure by time and to bring spirits on earth by generation and by generation, right? This is the book, right? I'm going to jump all the way down to verse 40. So he answered me and said, go thy way to women with child and ask of her when she fulfill her 9 months, if the womb that may keep the birth, right, any longer within her. Meaning the womb is parabolic to man, you understand? Coming out of it and bursting at once. Then said I, no, Lord, that she, Salakia, that can she not. And he said unto me, in the grave, the chambers of souls are like the womb of a woman. So the Lord is saying like the chambers of souls are just like the womb of a woman. And they're going to hold them for a set time and then release them back on the earth. It says, For like as a woman that travaileth maketh haste to escape the necessity of the travail, even so through of these places haste to deliver those things that are committed unto them. Meaning these souls, they got to come back on earth. The Lord is going to take all of the souls and keep them in a chamber forever. Now they resort to a chamber at a set time. They present before the Father. You understand, and make complaints, right? Come before him, ask restitution, redemption, and all of these different things, and cry and moan and groan. Like I say in the book of Job, the 23rd chapter, various other precepts that come back on earth, right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book, right, of Isaiah, chapter 60. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 60. And I'm going to start at verse number 22. Right? I'm going to start at verse 19. The sun shall be no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee. But the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and thy glory, and thy God thy glory. What is this talking about? Meaning Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to be the temple. He's going to be the light. He's going to be the shine and bright morning star. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 21. Let's go into that. What is this talking about? All these prophets are speaking the same exact things. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 21, and verse number 22. It says, and I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. Check that out. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it. Right, let me go back to the book of Revelation, Salakia, the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, and verse 20. Thy sun shall no more go down, neither shall thy moon withdraw itself. The sun going down is hope. Sun going down is blessings, right? Because when you read Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 1, what is that sun? It says, arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. Behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness of the people, meaning judgments, disasters, plagues, destruction. But the Lord shall arise like the sun upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. Meaning, just like Moses, your face is going to shine. That light is going to shine. You're going to always be illuminated. It says in verse, reading on from verse 20, but the Lord shall be thee thine everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning, right, shall be ended. Thy people also shall be all righteous. So in the kingdom, the Lord said all of the people are going to be righteous. It's going to be a righteous generation. You're not going to have anybody wicked in the kingdom. That's of our people. They shall inherit the land forever, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, right, that I may be glorified. A little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in my time. So the Lord said, a little one is going to become 1,000. What does that mean? What is that talking about? What is that talking about? A little one is going to become 1,000, man. Meaning one man is going to have an innumerable amount of children. It's not physically talking about 1,000. No, one man is going to become a nation. Imagine that, man. Looking, and all of these are your descendants. You come open in the morning, because you're going to have a blessing that your children aren't going to be able to inherit or understand. You're going to see America destroyed. You're going to remember the plague of the Lord. You're going to remember being in the chariots. You're going to remember destruction. You're going to remember passing through the bond of the covenant, the second wilderness. You're going to remember changing in the air. All of these things, you're going to have the blessing firsthand to really, truly be closer to the Lord than the other spirits are going to be in the kingdom. You're going to have authority. You're going to have rulership, preeminence, that crown set upon your head. There's no account of the 2/3 of crown being set on their head. You're going to have a crown. And in a crown, you have what? Rulership and dominion. I've never seen a king that just walks around with a crown on and he has no type of power. He's just walking around carnally. Unless he's 3 years old, man. You got a Burger King hat. Every king has authority, preeminence. And all of this right here are going to be your children. And they'll look up to you to lead them through the Spirit, man. Not that you would necessarily be teaching them, but they would know who their father is. And that'll be like forming your own nation, how many people that are going to come out of you, man. Because the Lord said, and I want to get this quick precept. When you read the book, right, of Genesis. Right, I want to get this quick precept. So I can bear with me. Right, let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 24. And I'm going to come back to this. It's the book of Genesis, chapter 24. Right, in verse number 60. And it reads, and they blessed Rebekah and said unto her, thou art our sister. Be thou the mother of thousands of millions. How much is thousands of millions? What is that talking about? What's 1,000? Check that out. It's a billion, man. So the Lord said we're going to be thousands of millions. Man, it won't be billions and billions and billions of Israelites. You're not going to be able to count all of the Israelites. And billion is just an innumerable amount. Right? 1,000 is just an innumerable amount. We're going to be thousands of our descendants in the kingdom. And even in this last generation, you got to really think that when the Lord comes back to destroy and utterly take down these nations and destroys the wicked of our people, that's not all the Israelites, because there are going to be billions of Israelites that have already received their white robes and in that generation that are going to be resurrected. So you got all the Israelites on earth, which still can't be numbered to this very day. But on top of that, all of the other generations that are going to be in the third heaven that are going to come with the Lord to be resurrected in their steads. You understand? So when you really go into this, it's deep. And then that generation that comes to be resurrected and the other one wiped out, those spirits have to go back up. It's like a swap for in the spirit, if you can understand. All of the dead are going to be alleviated, killed, brought to their chambers, while all of the righteous are going to be resurrected and beamed up to live. Right? Let's go to the mighty book, right, of Isaiah chapter 27. Let's further go into the latter end of Israel in an innumerable multitude and in the kingdom and how we're going to be. Let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 27. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 27 in verse number 6. He shall cause them that come of Jacob to take root. Israel shall blossom and bud and fill the face of the world with fruit. So the Lord said in the latter end, Jacob is going to take root. And that's spiritually. It's not just talking about carnally. You're going to have 1,000 children. It just happening right now. No, Jacob's just going to have 1,000 children. We're just going to take root. And all the Israelites in Spain, Jamaica, Portugal, and the islands. No, that's a carnal. In the latter end, we're going to take root, meaning our foundation is going to be sure. We're going to bring forth fruit as in righteousness. And we shall fill the face of the world. Meaning in the kingdom, a little one is going to be 1,000. You're going to have the Israelites ruling over here, Israelites ruling over there, Israelites ruling down there. All cities, districts, isles, countries, and land masses will be overtopped by an Israelite man. It says, Israel shall blossom and bud and fill the face of the world with fruit. meaning we're going to continue to populate and live forever in the kingdom. Right, let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 49. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 49. Right, I'm going to start at verse 19. It says, "For thy waste and thy desolate places and the land of thy destruction shall even now be too narrow by reason of the inhabitants, and they that swallow thee up shall be far away." So the Lord said, the waste and thy desolate places in the land of thy destruction shall even now be too narrow by reason of inhabitants. Meaning these places are going to be too small for us to inhabit. Everybody can't be in Jamaica in the kingdom, man. You're not just going to want to swarm, different parts, of whatever the case may be, man. Brazil or different parts of Jerusalem, right? Every place that you're inhabiting right now is going to be too narrow for you. Because once we start to repopulate, the Lord is going to open up parts of the earth we've never seen. Let me look at this real fast. Because this isn't all the earth. To think the so-called white man has mapped out the entire earth is madness. This isn't all the earth. This is only what we know of, only what we have. It's only what the Lord, because if all the spirits were actually on the earth at the same time, the Lord even told you that the earth can't hold all of the spirits at the same time. And that's not talking about the earth isn't big enough. The land, places, and inhabitants and parts that we live in are not big enough to hold all of us. If all of the spirits came back down, it'd be no place to live. It even says that in what is that? Jeremiah. I gotta get that precept too. But let me get this real fast. In the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 5. Verse 43. Right? I'm gonna start at 44. It says, "Then answered he me and said, Thy creature may not haste above the maker, neither may the world hold them at once that shall be created therein." So the Lord said, you can't hold everybody in the earth at once. It's not talking about the earth isn't big enough, because all of the spirits are going to eventually be coming back down on the earth, and a little one is going to actually be 1,000. We're going to continue to repopulate. It's talking about the land that we have. All the land that we have is not our land. It's just what Esau has stolen, right? It has showed you. The Lord is going to give us in the kingdom 7 mighty mountains. A mountain is a landmass, and a 7 is a number of completion. And in these 7 mighty mountains are going to be places. Where the hell is Behemoth at, man? What is the land of 1,000 hills? Where is that at? With 1,000 hills? 1,000 hills. A land of 1,000 hills. And 1,000 is the number of completion. Look at this. A land of 1,000 hills. So there's parts on the earth that you've never been to. You've never heard of. There's probably terrain and climates you've never seen. And they got pink and black beaches, man. Let me see. Black sand beaches. I've never seen this before in person. And if it wasn't for these pictures, I wouldn't believe it. They got pink sand beaches. What other things have we not seen? Maybe Jacob's seen this, maybe I'm late. I never know they had pink sand. I never know these type of things existed. And this is a carnal small level, just pink sand and black sand. What other creatures are out there? What other climate? Tropical rainforests and things through the spirit. Right, let's go to it. This 2nd Esdras, chapter 2, verse 18. It says, for thy help I will send my servant Isaiah and Jeremiah. After those counsels I have sanctified and prepared for thee 12 trees laden with diverse fruits, right? That's the tree of life that you're going to have to eat off of, which is all parabolic and spiritual. It says, as many fountains flowing with milk and honey. That's spiritual as well. The knowledge of the Most High flowing from the mountain of Israel. And 7 mighty mountains were upon they grow roses and lilies. That's the same spirit of what the Lord was talking about in the book of Isaiah, the 27th chapter, where he said, I will fill the earth. Let me read that again. Let me go back to that same precept. Because the Lord said in one context, he's going to fill the earth. And in another context, there's hidden mountains and land masses that he's going to fill the earth with. Let me go back to that quick precept. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 27. So somebody's going to have to inhabit this land. Somebody's going to have to see these animals. It says, he shall cause them that come of Jacob to take root. Israel shall blossom and bud and fill the face of the world with fruit. So it says, whereupon there grow lilies, roses and lilies, whereby I will fill thy children with joy. So the Lord's going to fill us up over all the inhabitants of all of these lands that we've never seen, because it's going to be a prophecy that the things wherein we are too naked and too narrow and too small for us to inhabit. Verse 20, the children which thou shalt have after those that thou hast lost, the other shall say again in mine ears, the place is too strait for me. Give place to me that I may dwell. It's going to be to the point where, you're going to have new land. You're going to, because there's going to be too many spirits on the earth, man. But it's going to be way too many spirits. And the Lord even said during the time of the kings that the prophets wanted new land because it wasn't enough space for the prophets. Let's get that in 2 Kings, right? The 6th chapter. Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 6, right? In verse 1. And the sons of the prophets said unto Elisha, behold, now the place where we dwell with thee is too strait for us. Let us go, we pray thee, unto Jordan, and take thence every man a beam, and let us make a place there where we may dwell. And he answered, go ye. So it was so many people that they said, look, man, we got to go get some more land, man. It's too much going on. We need new land that where we may dwell, man. Right? Reading on from verse 21. Then sayest thou in thine heart, who hath begotten me these, seeing I have lost my children, and I am desolate, a captive, removing to and fro, whom thou hast begot, so like it brought these up these. Behold, I was left alone, and these where they have been. So the Lord's going to bring again the captivity of Israel. That's the latter end of us, right? Let me go into the book of Numbers. Because what happened in the time of the wilderness? There was a generation that were murmuring, a generation that was wicked, but the Lord still saved a remnant, which was Joshua and Caleb, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. That's parabolic of that small remnant that the Lord is going to save. But guess who came with Joshua and Caleb? All of the little ones, which is parabolic of the children that we're going to have and we're going to lead and be in the kingdom, which sojourn to the promised land. So the Lord still left a remnant out of all of the people, which was Joshua and Caleb. This Numbers chapter 14, verse 27. Matter of fact, I'm going to just jump straight to the point. Let's go to the book of Numbers chapter 24 and verse 29. Your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness. That's exactly what's going to happen in this wilderness. It's going to be a lot of men, women, and children dying. And all that were numbered of you according to your whole number from 20 years old and upward, which have murmured against me. And everybody's going to lose faith. Not everybody, but a large amount is going to lose faith in the last days. They're going to fall out. Because just because you got this popping big nation and everybody coming into the truth, when tribulation happens, what's going to happen then? Could be 1 million Israelites in the truth right now. I mean, it could be 2 million. It could be 5 million. Who knows how many brothers and sisters really know this truth right now? But who's going to endure to the end? It's not really about who knows they're an Israelite. It's about who can endure to the end. It says, doubtless ye shall not come into the land concerning which I swear to make you to dwell therein, saith Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun. So Joshua, right, you have Ephraim, and then you have what? Judah. So you have the highest two, right, through the spirit of Judah, right? Then they have the inhabitants and inheritance of Ephraim. So you have the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The Lord is going to save the tents of Judah. Then he's going to save Ephraim. And Ephraim is spiritual for the rest of the tribes. But your little ones, hold on, I'm going to read that again. But your little ones, which ye said shall be a prey, them will I bring in, and they shall know that the land which ye have despised. So the Lord is taking the innocent, the young ones, the ones that don't really know what's going on. They was born. I mean, a child has to be led. That's why the Lord said you got to become as a little child. I mean, you got to be born again. You got to be taught all over. You think you could correct that homosexual man right now? No, the Lord has to kill you first. That's in the book of Isaiah 22:14. Let me get that real fast. Some people just have to be destroyed and purged away from their sins that they may be born again. It's spiritual. Let me get that real fast. Let's go to Isaiah. And yeah, it's sad, but it has to happen. It has to happen. I mean, we're talking about the same God that killed all inhabitants of the earth except for Noah and his family. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 22:14. And it was revealed in mine ears by the Lord of hosts. Surely this iniquity, meaning this sin, shall not be purged from you till ye die, saith the Lord of hosts. So in the Bible, the Lord is saying that certain iniquities, well, all iniquities rather, cannot be cleansed unless you die. Your blood has to be an atonement for that sin because you didn't use Yahweh's blood. Blood has to be taken. You have to have blood. Blood has to be, man. You can't get around it. You either have to die or you take the blood of the Lord, which was a sacrifice so that you don't have to die. Right? It's either one or the two. You can't just think that you could get away with your murdering and your wickedness and your evilness, man. Let me get this quick precept, and then I'm going to go back to that one, right? Just to prove that. Let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter 36. Salaki 37. That's what I want. In verse number 20. But the wicked shall perish, and the enemies of the Lord shall be as the fat of lambs. They shall consume into smoke. They shall consume away. So the Lord said the enemies of the Lord and the wicked, they have to be burned alive. And it has to be bloodshed for them. And they have to go up into smoke as a sacrifice at the end of the world. Right? At the end of time, rather. Right? For this world and its kingdom before our kingdom is set up. So purging, blood, iniquity, and death has to bring forth for it to be a new beginning. That's why the Lord cleansed the earth through the hand, right, of the holy angels and destruction, and only saved Noah, which was that what? That remnant. But out of that remnant, was that just it? Look how many thousands and millions and billions came out of Noah and his lineage. The same way it's going to be in the kingdom. The Lord's going to destroy and cleanse it by fire, but then you're going to have a small remnant, and then what's going to happen? You're going to come back. Just like in every generation, every lot, and every kingdom that we read about in the scriptures. Reading on from Numbers chapter 14 and 32. But as for you, your carcasses, they shall fall in the wilderness, and your children shall wander in the desert 40 years, and bear your whoredoms until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness. Check that out. So how did the Lord look at the children that were saved, that the Lord had mercy on, from the remnant of Joshua and Caleb? How did the Lord look at those spirits? Let's find out. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1, and let's start at 36. Right? I'm going to start at 35. It says, surely there shall not one of these men of this evil generation see that good land. And a lot of these men right now of this evil generation, they're not going to see the land. They have to be killed, which I swear to give unto your fathers, saith Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and he shall see it, and to him will I give that land that he hath trodden upon, and to his children, because he hath wholly followed the Lord. Also, the Lord was angry with me for your sake, saying, thou also, right, shall not go in thither. But Joshua, the son of Nun, which standeth before thee, shall go in thither, encourage him, for he shall cause Israel to inherit it. Check this out. More for your little ones, which he said should be a prey, and your children, which in that day had no knowledge between good and evil, they shall go in thither, unto them will I give it, and you shall possess it. See, at that generation of those little ones, they didn't know between good and evil. They were innocent in the eyes of the Lord. And that's why you got to be born again. You have to be like a child. A child doesn't really know good and evil. They don't know what's going on. Your 2-year-old, they call him terrible twos. He's just running around, man. Now, he may get into a little mischief. He may grab a pillow and fling it. May try to climb a wall, may try to emulate what he sees on TV. He may grab a fork and beat it against the table. In his mind, he's playing the drums, but you're seeing the fork and it's beating up the wood. You're like, what the hell is going on? He doesn't know that he's breaking up the dining room set that you just bought. He's just growing up, man. He doesn't know what's going on. Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 18. And that's fitting and spiritual that lineage of the wicked, you understand, that was destroyed off, has to be born again in the kingdom, renewed as children, and being taught and bred in the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, born in the kingdom as righteous. Let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 18, in verse, right, number 1. It says, and at that same time, the disciples unto Yahushua saying, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Yahushua called a little child unto him and set him in the midst of them. Verily, and said, verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as a little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Wherefore, therefore shall humble himself as this little child, and the same is great in the kingdom of heaven. So you got to be humble. You got to be lowly. You got to be brought down. You have to really understand what this truth is all about and being born again. Let's go to Jude chapter 1 and verse number 5. Right? This Jude chapter 1 and verse 5. I will therefore put you in remembrance, though ye once, Salaki. I will therefore put you in remembrance, though ye once knew this, how that the Lord, having saved the people out of the land of Egypt. Yeah, he saved all of the people, but not all of the people got what? The promised land. Because you had certain men that went off in the wilderness. They were murmuring, backbiting. They didn't believe, they didn't have faith. Even though the Lord saves you or may show you mercy, don't mean your latter end is going to be mercy. Afterward, destroyed them that believe not. Check that out. So the Lord's going to get up with those men that do not believe. And though you are saved, and though a remnant is saved for a moment, the Lord is still going to get up with you. That's judgment. So all throughout the scriptures, you see, how the Lord deals with his people. He saves a remnant, but also has mercy on that generation that comes after. Let's get that in Judges. Right? Let's go to the mighty book of Judges. It's the book of Judges, chapter 2, in verse, right? I'm going to start at 7. It says, and the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that outlived, right? Joshua. So all of Israel was on fire and served the Lord during the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua. So Joshua was anointed by, Moses, placed his hand upon him before the whole congregation. Numbers chapter 27, right? And he came into, rulership and the successor of Moses. And the elders that knew the spirit of the Most High ordained, right, that walked with Joshua, all of them Israel prospered, who had seen all the great works of the Lord that he had did for Israel. And Joshua, the son of Nun, the servant of the Lord, died, being 110 years old. And they buried him in the border of his inheritance, right? Timnath in the Mount of Ephraim on the north side of the hill Gershus. And also all that generation were gathered into their fathers. And there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. So there's always generations after generations after generations. Some generations follow the Lord. Some generations cease from following the Lord. You have spirits that are on the earth that were lost in slavery. Then you had elders that woke up the nation. So you always have a remnant through the mercy of grace that never left, like you read about in Sirach. Let me get this real fast in the book of Sirach, chapter 10. Salaki. That's Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10. Right? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10, in verse 13. It says, let me see. When the righteous was sold, she foresaid, come not. So the she is talking about wisdom. Wisdom never forsook us. It was always a remnant of Israel that knew they were Israel on the face of the earth. Even during the time of the 7th day of silence, even during the time, it's always a remnant, not the whole population, but delivered, right, him from sin. She went down with him into the pit, meaning into destruction, into hell, into captivity, and left him not in bonds, meaning we didn't get left in slavery, till she brought him the scepter of the kingdom. Meaning wisdom isn't going to leave us as a nation of people until we enter into the kingdom, because the kingdom is within us. The scepter of rulership is all laying down within us. And wisdom isn't going to leave us or deprive us of everything that the Most High has put her to breathe breath of life into us until we fulfill the things written. And power against those that oppress them. And as for them that had accused them, she shewed them to be liars and gave them perpetual glory. She delivered the righteous people, the blameless seed, from the nation that oppressed them. Right? So when you go into wisdom, wisdom did not leave us as a nation of people. So you always had that remnant that were delivered, you understand, and saved. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to 2nd Esdras chapter 8, verse number 1. Right? And it reads, and he answered me, saying, the Most High hath made this world for many, but the world to come for few. So it says the Lord made the world for many, but the world to come for few. A lot of people may break that down. Well, I don't know. Maybe the 2/3, they're not coming back. They're going to cease to exist. No, the world is a government of people. The Lord said he made the world for many, meaning this world was actually created, when you read the book of 2nd Esdras, the 6th chapter, for us to everlasting and to live forevermore, man. Right? Let me get that real fast. The Lord said through the hand of Ezra, how long shall this endure? How long are we going to be in this condition if the world was created for our sakes? Right? Let me read this. It says, verse 58, but we thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess the inheritance with the world? So in this context, we're not really the world to come is that government to come, that rulership to come. That's not going to be for few. So like, that's not going to be for many. It's going to be for few, because everybody's not going to be able to eat of the blessings and things that the Lord has given to the elect, right? It says, if the world now be made for our sakes, how long do we, so like, why do we not possess the inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? Now, how long are we going to be in this situation, man? Poor, distress. Now, check this out, right? Middle class. You have different classes. It says the middle class is the economic spectrum between the working class and the wealthy in the United States. The middle class occupies about half of the population, mainly consisting of people who work in white collar professions, small businesses, or trade skills, right? Check this out. Pew defines middle class as those earning between 2/3 and twice median American household incomes. So they classify, I didn't make this up. I don't know what article this is, CNBC. They say middle class is normally about 2/3 of the people, right? Everybody's pretty much not going to be in high class. And the poor class, right? You got middle class. Right, let me get this real fast. Right, you have your middle class, your working class, your millionaires, your poor. Every kingdom has a class. And you're going to have different classes and different rulerships. Everybody's not going to be rich. Just because, I think what trips Jake up is when you say the 2/3 are going to be in the kingdom, they're thinking that they're going to have the same the same things that the elect are going to have. Well, name me one kingdom where there wasn't a poor white man in, or a poor Chinese man in, or some other nation that is classified right now in their rulership that don't have two-time losers. Now, in the kingdom, you're not going to be robbing and stealing and bringing forth the fruit of unrighteousness through being poor. Because the Lord said, give me food, sufficient unto me. In the prayer, the Lord said, give us, Lord, our daily bread. Meaning they're going to have the laws in the inward parts, but they're not going to have the things that are promised to the elect. Right? This is the book of Proverbs, right? Chapter 30 and verse number 8. Remove from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me. So this is a prayer that Solomon is praying. He said, look, don't make me too poor, but don't make me too rich neither. The Lord said, riches are comely for them that have no sin. Let me see if I can pull that precept up. I think it's Sirach 13. Riches are all right. Let me see if I can pull that up real fast. (13 and 24). The Lord said, riches are good unto him that have no sin, and poverty is evil in the mouth of the ungodly. So riches are only good to a man that has no sin. That's why right now we really can't inherit the riches of the Most High and the riches of this land and the riches of everything in it, because we have sin. Give Jake right now $1 million and see what happened, man. He may turn away from the Most High. He may not read for that day. He may not read for the month. Right? He may, I got defraud not thyself. That's the only precept he know. Defraud not thyself. You call, hey, Ak, where you been at, man? I haven't seen you at camp. Why you not at the feast day? Hey, brother. Right? His signal always goes down because he's always in an island somewhere. Right? And all the precept, all he knows is defraud not thyself a good day, man. He took the apocrypha, he ripped out that page, the only page he wants. He folds it up to a T so that that's only shown, man. And he reads that precept every single day of his life. Riches are good unto him that have no sin. That's why in the kingdom, we're going to inherit all of the real riches of the earth because we can handle it. We're not going to be in sin. And poverty is evil in the mouth of the ungodly, man. Let me go back to that. It says, lest I be full and deny thee. So if you have too much riches or you have too much, you'll get full and deny the Lord. And say, who is the Lord? or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain. So the Lord said, you could be too poor when you start stealing. Now you're getting that itch, right? Bills piling up, babies crying, your wives are hungry, kids thirsty, just sitting up there angry, and you go on the move, man. You try to make things happen. So in the kingdom, the 2/3, they're not going to take the inheritance given to the elect, but they're not going to be poor either. Because being in a poor state, as we read, it'll put spirits on you. So they're just going to have just enough, right? You have Esau. Man, you may live around Esau, but he's not living like those rich elites. Let me get this quick precept about being poor. It's the book of it's the book of Proverbs, chapter 6, and verse number 30. Men do not despise a thief if he steals to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. So you won't really despise a thief. Like, I don't know if brothers and sisters seen Aladdin. He was kind of running around the marketplace stealing fruits and stealing apples and stealing loaves of bread with his little monkey, and because he was poor. You know, he wasn't doing it to really rob somebody or destroy him and kill him. He was hungry. And in the movie, so-called had a good soul and a good spirit, but he was just hungry and thirsty. So men aren't really going to despise a thief if they're really hungry and they're really thirsty, man. They're not really going to be looked at as a thief. Even in the law, you could be able to go through your neighbor's vineyard and eat of his grapes, because the Lord knows that you have poor of your people. But it's not going to be like that in the kingdom. You're not going to be stealing, robbing. So the 2/3 aren't going to be in a state where they're despising their poorness of their nation and their kingdom, to where they're bringing forth fruits of unrighteousness and destruction and robbery and lies and violence. Because then that's how we know that it has to be somewhat of a middle class. Because we know that the poor class is spoken against through the precepts that bring forth sin. We know that the high class is going to be rulership and preeminence. So it has to be a middle class that these nations, like it, the nation is going to have to be in, right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the mighty book of Hebrews, right? Passing through the bond of the covenant. Hebrews chapter 8, right? Let me get this quick precept. It's the book of Hebrews chapter 8, right? In verse number 8. For finding fault with them, he said, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, well, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. So the Lord's going to make a new covenant. And what's that new covenant? He's going to put the law in our inward parts. There's going to be no more teaching on the highways and byways, no more in-depth videos, no more in-depth breakdowns, no more dark similitudes. You can't see the Lord. You're seeing through that dark glass. You don't fully understand. You're a wife and your husband's breaking something down to you. I don't know about that. I can't prove him wrong. It's not going to be any more confusion. The Most High is going to put the spirit in you and the law and prophecy. You understand all things. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand and led them out of the land of Egypt. Because that wasn't a covenant where they could fall. So it's not going to be according to that same covenant. You're not going to have an option. You're going to be righteous. You're going to have the law. You're going to keep it. The Lord said, choose ye this day in the book of Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter, verse 16 all the way down. You could have either chose life or you could have chose death. So it's not going to be according to that covenant, even though that covenant is going to be within our hearts. All right, let me get that real fast in Deuteronomy chapter 30. All right, let me get this real fast. In verse number 16. It says, and that I command thee this day to love thy Lord, thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. And the Lord thy God shall bless thee in the land, whether thou shalt goest to possess it. But if thine heart turn away, so that thou wilt not hear, but thou shalt drawn away to worship other gods and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that ye shall surely perish. and that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land whether thou passeth over to go to possess it. So you had two options. The Lord said in verse 15, see, I have set before you this day life and good, and death and evil. So that covenant, I mean, you could have brought forth what? Death. But the Lord isn't according to that covenant. It's not according to that. Like the Lord said, we made a covenant with death. When you read the book of Isaiah, the 28th chapter, that covenant with death is choosing evil to bring forth the fruits of evil, of destruction. It says, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand and led them out of the land of Egypt, because they continued not in my covenant, and I regarded them not, saith the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their mind and write them in their hearts, and I will be to them a God, and they shall be to me a people. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor. Check that out. Every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord, for all shall know me, from the least, hold on, to the greatest. What is the least to the greatest? Isn't it going to be a least in the kingdom of heaven and the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Let me get that in the book of Matthew. So what does it mean everyone's going to know the Lord, from the least and the greatest? If everybody's the elect and everybody's the same, what is this talking about? All right, let's go to the book of Matthew, chapter 5. In verse number 19. Whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments. Now you may think the commandments, aren't that serious. I cut my beard off, Salakia. That may be a least commandment to you, but breaking the Passover may be weightier to you. You may have something like, brother, you're not supposed to be using that toothpaste, it got pork in it. Or brother, stop eating that candy. Stop eating those chips, it got pork in it. I'm not eating real pork, right? You're breaking the commandments. That may be least in your eyes. It may be small, but you have weightier things. And shall teach men, so he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. So you're going to have a least in the kingdom of heaven. So if everybody's the same, you got the Mosai, Yahweh, the 144,000 right under the 12, Salaki the 12, right under the 12, the 144,000 and the 1/3, who would be the least? What men would be the least in the kingdom of heaven? Because those are going to be the men that have been teaching men contrary and have been breaking these least commandments. Because the 1/3 and the men, women, and children that sigh and cry, they're going to be keeping the commandments. They're going to be saved through grace, mercy, and their faith and their works. Let me get that in 2nd Esdras, chapter 9. And then I'm going to go back to that. Right? Let me get this real fast in 2nd Esdras, chapter 9, in verse number 7. And everyone shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith. So it's not just faith. Everybody think they may just get delivered just because of faith. Oh, I was saved through grace. No, brother, you got to work too, man. So the 1/3 is going to have the works and they're going to have the faith. So who are these men breaking these commandments? Now, it's talking about least in the kingdom, because a kingdom is a rulership. Their dominion, their class, their preeminence, their glory forever. And they're situated in a stature of how they're going to be in the kingdom is going to be all predicated on your works right now. It says, for I say unto you that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven. Meaning you're not going to be able to endure. If you can't, your righteousness can't foresee and surpass the righteousness of the Pharisees. Because the righteousness of the Pharisees, all that they did was keep the law. They didn't have any faith. They didn't believe in Yahweh. They're not going to enter into the kingdom of heaven. Now, when it says enter into, that can't be physical, because whether you understand it or not, you're going to be in there regardless, because it's a rulership. You can't say, well, you're stepping into it. Everybody's a big wall up that says kingdom of heaven. And then you have to knock, and then you have everybody alienated. They're going to be knocking on that door, and they're not going to be able to get in, or they're just going to die off. No. What does it mean enter into it? I mean, you got to enter into all the things that the Heavenly Father has promised into you to receive under this rulership. That's what it's talking about. You can't read these scriptures carnally. Every time you read the scripture, you have to have another scripture or another scripture that validate that scripture. Out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every matter be established. You have to understand what it is that you're reading. Not read it as a Christian out of context or one precept, right? And then you just make a judgment out of it. So you're going to have the least in the kingdom, and you're going to have the greatest in the kingdom, right? Let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the book, right, of Matthew. Right, I want to get this quick precept. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 11 and 11. Verily I say unto you, among them that are born of a woman, there have not arisen a greater than John the Baptist. I mean, out of all of the men, you understand, that it's talking about, look, they have not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Because John the Baptist was Elijah. He was calling fire down from heaven. He was a priest. He was on fire for the Lord. He prophesied through the Spirit. He baptized the Lord. It says, notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. But I thought it just said in another context that you're not going to enter into the kingdom of heaven. So, I mean, what's going on? You have to be able to read it in the Spirit. What is it talking about when it says, notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he? So somebody least is going to be greater than John the Baptist. How is that possible if John the Baptist and everybody, you understand, that's born of a woman, nobody has risen a greater than John the Baptist? What makes you an least better than John the Baptist? Because in the kingdom, those men, women, and children that are least are not going to be able to sin. John the Baptist can fall through sin. They're not going to be able to die. John the Baptist can mortally die. They're not going to be able to be taught. John the Baptist was taught and built up. There's certain things that you're going to enter into being least in the kingdom is still going to be greater than even the most righteous man in this generation. That's why the kingdom and the rulership is so beautiful, that the Most High saves his people in the latter end, but he saves them through grace. But the kingdom being established is for the preeminence and the elect of Israel. Let me read that again. It says, verily I say unto you, among them that are born of women, there have not risen a greater than John the Baptist. Notwithstanding, he that is least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. So he's greater than John the Baptist. Because check this out, man. John the Baptist, he could have a broken bone. John the Baptist, he could be taken, to be stitched up. John the Baptist could give up the ghost. Not that John the Baptist was wicked, but every man has fallen victim to what? To sin. The men born again in the kingdom not going to fall witness to sin. Let me get that in Romans, the 3rd chapter. All has fallen short of the glory of the Most High by Hashem Yahushua, so that all are subject unto Yahushua. You have to be subject unto hope. Because like it even says in the book of Romans, the 4th chapter, if Abraham was saved by his works, he would have word of the boast, but not before the Lord. Even Abraham and his works and all of the righteousness he did, he still can't come before the Lord, man. Nobody can. Nobody can say, I have completed the 613 laws and the laws of the prophets right before the Lord and be justified. It's the book of Romans, chapter 3 and verse 10. As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. Meaning the only righteous is Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, so that no man can proclaim himself as true righteousness before the Lord, to be justified before the Heavenly Father. So in the scripture, you have a least and you have a greatest. Going back to Hebrews, going into the law that is going to be put within us. And all are going to know the Lord from the least to the greatest. Let me read that again. It's the book of Hebrews, chapter 8 and verse 11. And they shall not teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord, for all shall know me from the least to the greatest. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness. We'll read that again. For I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. And that he saith a new covenant, he hath made the first old. Now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. And that's the beauty of the mercies of the Most High. All praises to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushua, for his infinite mercy, his grace, his understanding, his knowledge, which he has bestowed upon his servants, the elect, that are going to rule in the kingdom, and unto the mercy, right, of the men, women, and children that will be destroyed through their disobedience. Blood is shed, which is literally going to be purged, but they're going to be brought back again in the kingdom. Now, most High willing, I could do another breakdown on the ruling classes in the kingdom in depthly from a T and break it down, and up going into the second wilderness and various other precepts. But let me close out with this precept. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 3 and verse 2. Be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die, for I have not found thy works perfect before Yahweh. And even when you go into the book of Revelations, you have the 7 churches. Now, these churches, not all of them were righteous. I believe 2 of them out of the 3, the Lord didn't come against to destroy or to have anything to say to hold against them. Right? Let me get this real fast. We got to bring it out through the spirit. Right? I got to touch on that. Because even out of the 7 churches, you got to elect inside of the elect. It's always an elect inside of the elect. It's always. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Right? This is the book of Revelation, chapter 3 and verse 1. Unto the angel of the church of Sardis write, these things saith he that hath the 7 spirits of God and the 7 stars. I know thy works, and that thou hast a name, and that thou livest and art dead. Be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die, for I have not found thy works perfect before God. Jumping down to verse 4. Thou hast a few names even in Sardis, which have not defiled their garments, and they shall walk with me in white, for they are worthy. So the Lord said, look, man, you got a few names in Sardis, meaning a remnant out of the church of Sardis that did not bow down, go off, and they're reserved and not defiled their garments to walk in white. So even out of these churches, you have a remnant, right? Let me jump to verse 7. And to the angel of the church of Philadelphia, right? These things saith he that is holy, and he that is true, he that hath the key of David that openeth, and no man shutteth, and no man openeth. I know thy works, behold, I set before thee an open door, and no man can shut, for thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and has not defiled. So I cannot deny my name. So you have the little and the least with no strength, but they still kept the commandments of the Most High. So you have the feeble churches, the weak ones, the remnant out of certain churches that didn't get defiled, right? You got, when you go into Smyrna, right, Ephesus, Philadelphia, right, Laodicea, all these different churches, they bring forth the spirit, and the Lord always saved the remnant out of these churches. And out of these churches, you have some that the Lord didn't rebuke, and you have some that he did, right? Jumping down to verse 14. Check this out. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans, write these things, saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness in the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. So you got some churches the Lord about to do away with, man. Destroy. Utterly get rid of. Spew them out of his mouth. It says, I would that thou wert cold or hot. So the Lord coming to all of these churches, removing, saying, look, you know what? Some aren't going to make it. Some are. You got a remnant. Look, I'm about to blow your candlestick out. You better repent. So all of these different churches have something to work on, right? And that's the spirit, because these 7 churches represent the whole body of Yasha'ah. And the Lord is in the midst of the 7 churches, like you read about in Revelations 1 and verse 13 all the way down, chiefly 14. In the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man. And he's in the midst of Israel. But let me close off with Revelations 3 in verse number 3. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So Most High willing, this was edifying through the Spirit. Lord willing, the Most High sups with you. You continue to get built up, and we continue to go inside of breakdowns, going into prophecies, parables, and mysteries through the Spirit. Most High willing, you stay strong. I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, by Shema Mashiach, wa Malak Yahushua. Shalom.